The global balance of power is undergoing a dramatic shift. For more than a century, the United States has been the dominant force in global economics, politics, and innovation. However, China's meteoric rise over the past 4 decades has challenged this long-standing hegemony. As of 2025, China stands on the precipice of global leadership, not just as a regional power or economic rival, but as a potential new superpower that could surpass the United States in various domains. This video will explore the multifaceted reasons why China may inevitably surpass the United States, focusing on economics, political stability, long-term planning, infrastructure development, trade relationships, and technological advancement. China's economic growth over the past 4 decades has been unprecedented. Since launching its reform and opening up policy in 1978, China has transitioned from a largely agrarian society into the world's second-largest economy by nominal GDP and the largest by purchasing power parity, according to the International Monetary Fund. Its GDP growth has consistently outpaced that of the United States, averaging around 6 to 10% annually before the COVID-19 pandemic and maintaining strong recovery afterward. China's nominal GDP now hovers over $18 trillion, whereas the US is at $28 trillion, but grows at a much slower pace than China. Manufacturing and export dominance. China is often called the world's factory for good reason. It leads the world in manufacturing output and has become the largest exporter of goods. It manufactures over 30% of the world's goods. While the US economy has largely shifted towards services, China continues to dominate in manufacturing, from electronics and machinery to textiles and rare earth minerals. This manufacturing capacity is closely linked to its robust infrastructure, cheap labor, though rising, and ability to scale production quickly. Economic diversification and domestic consumption. In recent years, China has taken steps to reduce its dependence on exports and foreign investment by focusing on internal consumption and services, a shift aligned with its dual circulation economic strategy. By bolstering domestic demand while maintaining its export prowess, China is positioning itself for sustainable long-term growth. In contrast, the United States faces growing public debt, sluggish industrial output, and increasing inequality, all of which challenge its economic resilience. One of China's most underestimated strengths lies in its political system. While the Western model of democracy emphasizes short election cycles, pluralism, and checks and balances, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, operates under a single-party authoritarian system that allows for long-term planning and centralized control. Long-term planning. The Chinese government operates with a level of strategic foresight rarely seen in democracies. Through 5-year plans and multi-decade national strategies like Made in China 2025 inches and the Belt and Road Initiative, the CCP has demonstrated its ability to commit to long-term goals without the disruptions of electoral politics. This consistency has enabled China to undertake massive infrastructure projects, technological advancements, and economic reforms with relatively minimal internal resistance. Political cohesion versus partisan gridlock. While the U.S. often grapples with partisan gridlock that stalls legislation and policy shifts, China's centralized authority allows for swift policy implementation. For example, China was able to respond decisively to the COVID-19 pandemic through strict lockdowns and coordinated resource deployment, albeit at the cost of civil liberties. Meanwhile, the U.S. response was mired in political disputes and inconsistent state-level policies. No conversation about China's rise would be complete without addressing its infrastructure. In under 4 decades, China has built one of the most advanced and extensive infrastructure networks in the world. High-speed rail and urbanization. China operates the world's largest high-speed rail network, spanning over 40,000 kilometers as of 2025. These networks not only connect major economic hubs, but also bring prosperity to inland and rural areas. Urbanization has also been rapid and strategic. Megacities like Shenzhen, Chongqing, and Shanghai have been transformed into global business centers with world-class airports, ports, and city planning. Technological infrastructure. China has invested heavily in digital infrastructure, including 5G networks, AI research hubs, and smart city technologies. These investments have laid the groundwork for future innovation and economic expansion, allowing China to leapfrog legacy systems that bog down infrastructure upgrades in older economies like the United States. Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. The BRI is arguably the most ambitious infrastructure and trade development project in modern history. Launched in 2013, it aims to connect Asia with Africa and Europe via land and maritime networks. By financing roads, railways, ports, and energy projects in over 140 countries, China is not only opening new trade routes, but also increasing its political and economic leverage over participating nations. Shifting trade alliances. While the U.S. under recent administrations has leaned toward protectionism and trade wars, most notably with China itself, China has championed multilateral trade deals like the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP. These agreements further embed China into the global economy, especially across Asia-Pacific, and isolate the U.S. from key trade relationships. China is no longer just copying Western technology, it's innovating on its own. In fields like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, 5G telecommunications, electric vehicles, EVs, and renewable energy, China is a leader or strong contender. AI and surveillance. China is a world leader in AI development, particularly in facial recognition, surveillance technology, and big data analytics. Government funding, massive data sets, and fewer legal constraints on privacy have enabled rapid development in these sectors. Green tech and renewable energy. China is the largest producer of solar panels, wind turbines, and electric vehicles. It leads the world in renewable energy capacity, and its aggressive push to decarbonize its economy gives it a competitive edge in what will be the dominant industries of the 21st century. It's worth noting that China faces significant demographic challenges, including an aging population and a declining birth rate. However, it has begun to implement policies to address these issues, such as loosening the one-child policy, increasing retirement age, and investing in automation and AI to offset labor shortages. The United States is not immune to demographic shifts either, facing immigration policy gridlock and political polarization that hinders long-term planning. While China's demographic challenges are real, its state-driven adaptability may allow it to mitigate them more effectively. China's military modernization under the umbrella of the People's Liberation Army, PLA, has advanced rapidly, with a focus on naval power, space capabilities, cyber warfare, and missile technology. China is establishing itself as a formidable force, especially in the Asia-Pacific region. Its growing military presence in the South China Sea and its ambitions in Taiwan are reshaping regional geopolitics. Moreover, China is increasing its role in international organizations and peacekeeping missions, presenting itself as a responsible global leader, one that is increasingly being seen as an alternative to U.S. dominance. While traditionally overshadowed by Western soft power, China has been investing in global media networks such as CGTN, Confucius Institutes, and cultural and panda diplomacy. Through media, education, and international aid, China is slowly shaping global narratives, particularly in developing nations. Just look at the amazement on many Westerners' faces when TikTok was banned and they moved on to RedNote, or when they tuned into iShowSpeed's China streams. The idea that China will inevitably surpass the United States is not merely speculation, it is grounded in observable trends and structural shifts. China's blend of state-driven capitalism, long-term planning, and centralized political authority gives it unique advantages in the 21st century geopolitical landscape. Its emphasis on infrastructure, global trade networks, technological innovation, and political cohesion stands in stark contrast to the internal divisions and policy stagnation that often characterize U.S. governance. However, inevitability is a strong word. It assumes a linearity in global affairs that history rarely confirms. While China's trajectory suggests a high probability of surpassing the United States in key areas, it still faces formidable obstacles: demographic decline, political repression, potential economic bubbles, and rising global resistance to its influence. Still, the direction is clear. The world is no longer unipolar, and the age of American exceptionalism is giving way to a more multipolar world order. One where China is not just a participant but a contender for the top seat. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.